lot to talk about on this Thursday, February 20th. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr., and here's what's coming up. We do have some breaking news to get to, as according to ESPN's Adam Schefter, Eagles center Cam Jurgens had to get surgery on his back. We'll talk about that. New Eagles offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo explained his role and what he did throughout the 2024 season to me in the lead up to the Super Bowl. And today, 94.1 WIP in Philadelphia, playing my interview with Patullo, the new Eagles OC. So we'll pass along that information and play that interview clip once again. And the Eagles getting more cap space, giving Howie Roseman more wiggle room going into free agency. Before we talk about all of those stories and topics, be sure to hit that subscribe button here on Eagles Now for a plethora of reasons. First of all, going to be in Indianapolis next week for the NFL Combine. We'll interview Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, talk to some Eagles draft prospects and targets. Also, free agency is starting in less than a month. I have you covered with the best free agency coverage for the Birds right here on this channel. And then after that, the NFL draft at the end of April. The channel has been humming all year long, especially during this Eagles playoff run. We surpassed 100,000 subscribers in the divisional round against the Rams. Wasn't long ago. We are already approaching 113 subs, so be sure to lock us in today. Here is the breaking news from Adam Schefter on this Thursday morning that Eagles Pro Bowl center Cam Jurgens underwent a back procedure Tuesday in Los Angeles with Dr. Robert Watkins to alleviate nerve pain. Doctors believe a full recovery is expected by July, in time for Eagles training camp. And of note, Jurgens is headed into the final year of his rookie contract. And I think anytime you're talking about a center, especially an offensive lineman, when you're engaging with 300-plus pounders on every single play, given the natural just reality of that position, it's a big deal when your starting Pro Bowl center, who did a wonderful job in taking over for Jason Kelce after the best center in the history of the Eagles decided to retire. Yeah, this is somewhat notable, right? And Jurgens put together a very good 2024 season after he filled in nicely at right guard in 2023. And for any human out there, a back surgery, a back injury is no joke. Jurgens is also going into the final year of his contract, and so I think the Eagles are in a spot where they're starting to get the wheels in motion of thinking about a contract extension for him. Does this alter that? By giving Jurgens a contract extension, it does free up some money on the salary cap for the Eagles, especially with how Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie construct these deals. They backload them a little bit to give the team more financial flexibility in the foreseeable future right away. This is going to be somewhat of a long recovery. We're here in February, and Jurgens is expected to be back in July with that full recovery. So this is somewhat severe. It's one of the top centers in the National Football League. Thankfully, it's not a structural issue. It's just something to alleviate a nerve issue. But nonetheless, I think this is obviously something that we're going to continue to monitor here. We first heard about this back injury after the divisional round against the Rams. And then going into the NFC Championship game against the Washington Commanders, Jurgens didn't practice all week, did not start, and so Landon Dickerson had to move over from left guard to center. Tyler Steen had to start at left guard, but then Landon Dickerson hurt his knee, did not play in the second half, and Jurgens, a warrior, gutting it out after halftime in replacing Dickerson, who couldn't play the rest of the game. Steen played at left guard, and Jurgens played very well in that game. A lot of toughness there. Was clearly in a lot of pain, walking off the field after the NFC Championship game. Once the Eagles punched their ticket to Super Bowl 59, Jurgens was barely able to walk. And then thankfully for the next 2 weeks in the lead up to that game against Kansas City, that allowed Jurgens some time to recover, and he started in the Super Bowl and played every meaningful snap. And when I was at the Superdome for Super Bowl opening night on the Monday of Super Bowl week, Jurgens didn't disclose a lot of information. He said, look, I'm not going to talk about injuries, but he did say something that I thought was very interesting. He said, I'm not going to talk about my back, how I'm feeling, whether I'm going to play in this game, but I am standing here and I'm doing interviews with all of you media members. And he was standing there in good spirits for about an hour. And so if Jurgens was really, really hurting, he wouldn't have been standing there for that long in good spirits. And then I caught up with him later in the week and he said, yeah, I'm going to play in this game. And so at that point, the Eagles had determined that Cam Jurgens was going to give it a go. Jurgens in 2024, one of the top centers in the game, overall PFF grade of 67.1. That was 16th among 64 qualifying centers. Very good run blocker with the athleticism and the comfortability to get out in space on those pull blocks. The grade there, 68.5, that was 19th among centers. The pass blocking grade has to get a little bit better. There's no doubt about that, but it was his first year as a starting center. I think that he can grow as long as this back injury doesn't linger. It was 56.5, the grade there, 48th among 64 centers. So he could definitely improve in that department, but he only gave up one hit. He did give up 4 sacks, 25 pressures. You'd like to see that number go down a little bit. But when you take over for Jason Kelce at the center spot, I've said this a couple of times, it's like starting at shortstop for the New York Yankees after Derek Jeter retired. Now, let's bring it back to this. Will this injury impact an extension? Jurgens was a Pro Bowler in replacing the aforementioned Kelce. He's a young, emerging player in this league, a focal point of the best offensive line in football, led by offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland. An extension would free up $3.2 million. And so if you pay him now, not only do you free up that money, but you could probably get Jurgens as compared to him putting together another really good season in 2025 if he were to stay healthy, and his price tag would go up. You sign him now, you can get him at below market price, and we know that Howie really likes to offer these contract extensions to his players very early before the price tag goes up. And so I still anticipate that is going to be the case here for Philadelphia and how they handle this Jurgens situation. So what say you? This is today's poll question. It's also the pinned comment of today's Eagles Now. Should the Eagles sign Jurgens to an extension this offseason, given the back surgery here? S for sign, P for pass. Let me know down below. Still to come, new Eagles offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo explaining his role, what he does, how he's been the right-hand man alongside Nick Sirianni, and some big news here. The Eagles getting more cap space and more flexibility financially in free agency coming up on March 14th. First, you see I'm rocking some of my Eagles Super Bowl gear. The Super Bowl MVP, Jalen Hurts, hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. I got this. I got a hoodie. I got a hat. All thanks to our friends at Fanatics, the sponsor of today's show. And if you use that link down below, chatsports.com/EaglesSB, you too can get your hands on some Eagles Super Bowl gear so that you can swag up, look good, feel good, and rep the birds and celebrate this epic Super Bowl 59 championship. You have the vintage tee here. I got this hoodie that we're about to show you. I'm going to put this link for all of the real ones down below in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment. It's chatsports.com/EaglesSB. Get your gear today. Some news from yesterday, of course, that we covered on the show with a regular video, a YouTube short, and on the live show because we're just some content daddies out on these YouTube streets. The Eagles are hiring pass game coordinator and associate head coach Kevin Patullo as their new offensive coordinator to take over for Kellen Moore. If you don't know his background, here it is. He's been in the NFL coaching for about a decade and a half. In 2024, associate head coach, pass game coordinator for Philadelphia. He's served in that role. He's also been a pass game specialist for the Eagles. Sirianni took him with him when he took the job as a head coach in 2021. He's overlapped and been with Sirianni since 2018 when he was coaching wide receivers with the Colts when Sirianni was the OC under Frank Reich. He credits longtime NFL offensive coordinator and former head coach Chan Gailey as one of his big mentors. He played quarterback and wide receiver at South Florida, and he has been Sirianni's right-hand man. And he's helped coach this offense that since 2021, under Sirianni's direction, ranks 4th in offensive EPA since then, 2nd in passing yards per attempt, 2nd in fewest interceptions, 3rd in points scored, 3rd in drive score percentage, third in touchdown percentage, fifth in successful play percentage, and sixth in passer rating. And so I know a lot of people kind of lukewarm about Sirianni elevating his boy, his friend, an internal hire. I would have liked to have seen the Eagles go outside of the building. I think it's important to bring fresh ideas and fresh concepts inside the building so that you can have a collection of different ideas and offensive philosophies. But Kevin Patullo has earned this. And Nick Sirianni has earned the right to elevate and promote the guy who he wants as his OC. And he was a pivotal figure in helping to run and put together this Eagles offense, not just this year when they were a top 10 overall unit, when Saquon Barkley broke records, when they got hot in the playoffs, but Nick Sirianni runs a lot of his head coaching decisions through Kevin Patullo. And so I caught up with them in the lead up to the Super Bowl. 94.1 Sports Radio WIP played my interview with Patullo this morning on their morning show. I woke up to a flurry of text messages and Instagram DMs from a lot of people saying, "Yo, Chase, you just got a bunch of shout-outs on WIP." It's pretty cool. Grew up watching and listening to that radio station, especially with Howard Eskin way back in the day. So anytime you can get a shout-out on the flagship station in Philadelphia of the Philadelphia Eagles, that's pretty damn cool. And to get some recognition is awesome for the work that we've been putting in alongside producer Chip here on the channel. So here's that interview with Patullo explaining his role, what he does, his offensive philosophy. Enjoy it, and it gives you a better feel as to what he's going to bring this Eagles offense.
Nick was talking earlier about how you've been his right-hand man for a little while. The casual fan doesn't really know your role or your name or how you handle things behind the scenes, but Nick said that sometimes he'll run head coaching managerial duties through you. So can you just explain your role and your relationship with Nick and how you help him through an assortment of things?
Yeah, I think since we got here in 21, him and I have worked very closely together. And some of that stuff's been, like I said, anything from an offensive role or a head coaching type role, and a lot of it can be whether it's staffing, whether it's decisions, personnel, scheduling, things like that. So it's really a lot of the day-to-day stuff that a head coach does. I've been very privileged to be a part of, which has been very, great for my career, working forward. And then as far as the offensive stuff, since 21 as well, I've kind of been in the forefront with the offensive coordinator, working on everything from day-to-day stuff to planning to the play calling stuff on game day and structuring things. So I've had a unique seat, and it's been great for my career. And wherever it goes, but I'm very fortunate to be the role I'm in and be trusted for what I do. And it's been a lot of fun working with Nick.
Of course, a lot of talk about Kellen getting that Saints job here in New Orleans, and your name has come up as a potential offensive coordinator candidate for 2025. I'm just curious, from a football nerd standpoint, what is your offensive philosophy? What do you value?
So really, it first comes down to what do the players do best. I learned that as a young coach. Chan Gailey was one of my mentors, and everywhere I was with him, we kind of just did what the players did best. And then from there, you just kind of build a system around the players. I mean, there really is no set system, I don't believe. I think it's what your players do best, and you just build it from there.
Last year, I think the Eagles were 32nd in pre-snap motion. That number's gone up a little bit. Why is it important to have pre-snap motion from a matchup standpoint?
Overall, the more you can do with motion, the more you can create leverage on a defense. So whether it's just moving somebody slightly or moving somebody a little bit more, or the speed of motion, it does create leverage on a defense. It creates conversation, and different things can happen. You don't want to do it just to do it. If it doesn't give you a benefit, you don't really want to do it because it can cause you problems as well on the offensive side. But I think it can definitely help in certain situations. You just have to be careful you're not overdoing it.
And again, I know a lot of people are thinking, well, they internally promoted Brian Johnson after making it to the Super Bowl in 2022. That move didn't work out. Yeah, and I totally get those concerns. There's no doubt about it. But I think Nick Sirianni has earned the benefit of the doubt to go with the candidate who he wanted to go with. And this is also of note, right? You have to trust Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, and Nick Sirianni because they know that the internal promotion of Brian Johnson was a failure. And they don't want to have that failure resurface again after this time winning the Super Bowl following the 2024 season. They believe that Patullo is the right guy. And also, when you're this late in the process, like, some of the candidate pools really diminished because other teams scooped up some of the top candidates. I also want to replay this interview and this clip from Nick Sirianni because he was asked what Patullo does and the value that he brings to the table. Sirianni spoke glowingly of Patullo in the lead up to the Super Bowl.
Kevin Patullo is a guy that we don't hear from often or really isn't talked about a lot because he doesn't have a coordinator title. But how important has he been to your success this year? Can you just talk about the relationship you two have, having been together for so long?
Yeah, very important to the success that we've had. He wears a lot of different hats. Helps me a lot with different things, with head coaching things. I can't tell you that I make a decision without saying to Kevin first, what do you think? That's in everything. That's in game. That's out of game. That's with scheduling. That's with offensive stuff. That's with game management stuff. And you lean on him a lot. And then him and Kellen. I mean, they're together at all times. Talking through the offensive stuff. And he's kind of that same sounding board for Kellen on the offensive side. This is what. How many years? 8 years with Kevin. That continuity is really important because he knows what I'm thinking in certain situations, how you want things to be taught, all those different things. So he's just been a great resource, for me the entire time, our success this year, but really our success that we've had since we've been here. Can't be great without the greatness of others, and that completely is definitely a fact with Kevin Patullo, and I trust him with everything. Got a ton of trust and faith with him. He's awesome.
And so for those of you who do have those aforementioned concerns about the Eagles promoting from within, do you trust Howie? Do you trust Nick? Do you trust Jeffrey Lurie? Share your thoughts with me down in the comments section, and also feel free to come back at me by saying, Chase, you were talking about this late in the process, the top candidates being gone. Why didn't the Eagles go after Josh McCown? Why didn't they go after G.J. Kinney? Why didn't they bring back Frank Reich? And speaking of Frank Reich, you know what I would do? I would bring back Frank Reich to be the Eagles' new quarterbacks coach, because the New Orleans Saints officially hired former Eagles quarterbacks coach from 2024, Doug Nussmeier, as their OC, as Kellen Moore continues to poach members of this Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles coaching staff. Nussmeier with Kellen Moore in Dallas, with Kellen Moore with the Chargers, followed him to the Eagles. He's a confidant to Moore, and now he's going to be the OC with New Orleans. He's not going to call plays. Moore has said that he wants to continue to do that because that is a passion of his, even though he's going to be the head coach. But now the Eagles have another opening, quarterbacks coach, and that's the job that I would give to Frank Reich. As for the Eagles getting more cap space, let's round out there. The NFL informing teams on Wednesday that the salary cap is going to increase and go up sizably again, and the exact figures are as such. NFL informing teams that the salary cap of 2025 will be between $277.5 million and $281.5 million. That is an increase of around $22.1 to $26.1 million from last year. And now the Eagles have about $20 million in cap space. This means business straight up booming in the NFL. And the salary cap will have increased by at least $53 million over the last 2 years. It's incredible how popular and how powerful the NFL has become. And so the Eagles right now sitting somewhere in the neighborhood of $20 million in cap space. You want to know ways in which the Birds can create more cap space? Here you go. If they extend Cam Jurgens, that can free up north of $3 million. If they extend or restructure the contract of Dallas Goedert, that opens up about $4.3 million. If they designate James Bradbury as a post-June 1 cut, that's $4.7 million in cap savings for 2025. They could restructure Lane Johnson's contract. That frees up about $3 million. And so that would bring the Eagles' total cap space from about $20 to $36 million. Something that I mentioned, too, when Chip and I were filming the perfect Eagles offseason plan was that Saquon Barkley could look for guaranteed dollars or a new contract. Remember that and keep an eye out for that. Because now with what Saquon did in 2024, he could be looking for more money. $26 million in guaranteed money is what he got, and that's a bargain for what he did with Philadelphia in 2024. I worry about that because he's about to be 28 years old, and sometimes running backs can just lose it overnight. But There's momentum behind that, and now all fans pretty much are on Saquon's side. Also, a player like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He signed a below-market deal with the Eagles to come back, and that contract was structured in a way where the Eagles could get out of it if it didn't go well, because as we know, C.J. Gardner-Johnson can get a little bit wonky, and you never know how he's going to behave. But he played awesome football this past season, was a focal point of that defense, a great leader. He stayed healthy, and he's an excellent, excellent player. When you win a Super Bowl, players are going to look to get compensated. That can be said for players already on this roster, under contract, like Saquon, like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and of course players in free agency, like Joshua and Milton Williams, and I think those two players are going to get fat bags. Are you still watching the show? Did you enjoy the show today? Give me a real one down below, and as always, go Birds.